In September 2015, an actress sat down on a talk show couch and did something that the face of beauty is never supposed to do. That's Hayden Panettiere talking about her postpartum depression on live TV. And at that moment, Hayden had been the face of Neutrogena for almost 10 years. She grew up on the billboards. If you were anywhere near TV in the 2000s, you grew up watching her tell you it was the #1 dermatologist recommended brand. According to Hayden, shortly after the interview aired, the phone rang. She said Neutrogena was not pleased. She said they wanted her gone immediately. Not for a scandal, not for a DUI, not for a feud, a leaked photo, for saying out loud that new motherhood had broken her heart and that she needed help. She kept that story to herself for almost a decade. She finally told it in May of this year, 2026, in her memoir and in a podcast. And this week, that clip is everywhere because on August 16th, Hayden Panettiere died at the age of 36. This is the story of what she said happened between her and one of the biggest skincare brands on earth. It's a story about morality causes, about what beauty companies mean when they sell you the word real, and about how an industry that now profits from mental health awareness treated one woman who is actually publicly struggling. Chapter 1, The Face. Let's go back to 2006. Hayden's about to be one of the most famous young women in America because of a show called Heroes that premieres in the fall. And Save the Cheerleader, Save the World becomes the line of the year. She is the cheerleader. That same year, Neutrogena assigns her as a brand ambassador. And I want to explain what that job really is because it matters for what comes next. A beauty ambassador is not selling a face wash. Lending the brand her face, her reputation, her likability so that when you see that bottle at Target, you feel something warmer and familiar. Neutrogena has always been brilliant at this. Their whole playbook is the relatable girl next door, plus the dermatologist lab coat. Trustworthy and pretty. Clinical and warm. Jennifer Gardner, Kerry Washington, Gabrielle Union, and for almost a decade, Hayden. For words from this spring, Neutrogena was a huge part of my life. They caught absolutely everything I did. Now, contracts like this would come with something called a morality clause. It's been a standard in Hollywood deals for about 100 years. Short version, if the celebrity does something that embarrasses the brand can walk out. In all fairness, you can see why those clauses exist. Hold on to that phrase. Something that embarrasses the brand. Because the entire question of this video is what Neutrogena allegedly decided fit into that description. Chapter 2, The Couch. In December 2014, Hayden's daughter, Kaya, was born. By her own telling, what should have been the happiest stretch of her life turned into something she couldn't explain and couldn't control. Here's the thing about postpartum depression, and that the beauty industry and all industries should understand. It's not rare. It's not a character flaw. Roughly 1 in 8 women who give birth in this entire country experience, according to the CDC. It's the most common complaint amongst new mothers. It's the most common complaint of childbirth. More common than gestational diabetes. We just don't put it on a shower registry. And in 2015, almost nobody famous talked about it. The one big precedent was Brooke Shields, who wrote a book about her postpartum experience. She wrote a book about her postpartum depression in 2005 and got publicly lectured for it by Tom Cruise on the morning television. That was the climate. That was the honest cost. So when Hayden sat on that couch in September 2015 and said the words, "It's really painful, it's really scary, and women need lots of support," that was not a PR stunt. That was a 26-year-old with a 9-month-old newborn baby doing the one thing we beg celebrities now to do: be real. A few weeks later, she checked herself in for treatment. The public response, by the way, was welcomingly warm. An overwhelming amount of moms flooded her mentions thanking her. Outlets praised her. The world was ready for this conversation. According to Hayden, one phone call said otherwise. Chapter 3, The Phone Call. Everything in this chapter is Hayden's account told on the On Purpose with Jay Shetty podcast this past May 2026. And in her memoir, This Is Me, A Reckoning. Neutrogena to this day has not publicly told their side. I want you all to know that going forward, and we'll come back to it. Here's what she said happened. Shortly after that interview aired, word came down that Neutrogena was not pleased with her remarks. She said that the company moved to terminate her immediately. treating what she shared on the couch as a morality clause problem, as conduct, as, in her own words, out of all of the things they would fire me over, this is the last thing I thought they would fire me over. Sit with that list for a second. She was a young star in the 2000s tabloid machine. There are hundreds of normal Hollywood ways to trip a morality clause. And by her account, the thing that finally did it was a medical condition that affected 1 in 8 mothers. She's had her representative push back hard with 5 words. That's illegal. You can't do that. And according to her, that worked. Sort of. The immediate firing stopped. The contract simply was shifted. Instead, the contract was simply allowed to run out. In 2016, after a decade, it ended quietly. No renewal, and she said no goodbye. I had worked with these people for 10 years, and I remember not hearing a word from anybody. 10 years she grew up with these people. They, in her words, caught absolutely everything she did, and the ending she describes wasn't a scandal or a blow-up. It was silence. In the corporate language, silence is a sentence too. We said that about Stanley's review numbers. It's truer here. Now, in fairness, because we need receipts on this channel, even when they cut against the story, Neutrogena has never confirmed any of this. No statement in May when she told her story on the podcast. No statement this week. Outlet after outlet has been asked and has gotten nothing. It's possible there's another side. Contracts end for boring reasons all the time. But when a brand goes this quiet twice, while this specific story spreads so far, they are making a choice and we are allowed to notice it. Chapter 4, the decade after. I'm going to keep this chapter short because Hayden's last 10 years deserve more than a montage, and this video is not a biography. The short version, the depression didn't resolve on the talk show couch. She went to treatment in 2015 and again in 2016. She struggled with alcohol, opioids, which she talked about openly in 2022. She eventually made the decision she called the hardest of her life, giving custody of her daughter to Kaya's father. In 2023, she lost her younger brother, Jansen, at 28. And then this spring, at 36, she put the whole story in a book, This Is Me, A Reckoning, published in May. She did it on the podcast rounds. She told the Neutrogena story out loud for the first time, 10 years after the fact. On August 16th, she was found unresponsive in Greenville, South Carolina, and pronounced at the scene. Police say preliminary investigation found no signs of foul play at the scene. As I'm filming this, no cause of death has been released. So we're not going to speculate, and I'd ask you not to in the comments either. What I will say is this. She spent the last months of her life on Earth telling the truth about her story. On the record, in her words. Which means the story you just heard isn't gossip, isn't leaked. It's a testimony. And she made sure of that. Chapter 5. The Reckoning. Within a day of her death, the Jay Shetty clip was everywhere. And the internet did what it does. Boycott Neutrogena post. Real quote from one. Hearing they severed ties with her after she postpartum depression just triggered a lifetime of boycott for me. Look at this channel. It's not in the boycott business. You're adults. But I am noticing businesses. So let's notice something together.